Hello everyone and welcome. An artist struggling to pay rent turned a dumpster into a tiny home for $4,800. Harrison Marshall converted a dumpster into a tiny home in London. Harrison Marshall converted a dumpster into a tiny home and moved in last month. The artist came up with the idea after struggling to find a home he could afford to rent in London. The project cost $4,800 and has a mezzanine bed, sink, and kitchen area, but no bathroom. When Harrison Marshall, an architect and artist, started looking for a new home to rent in London last summer, he was struck by the crazy prices. "I was trying to find somewhere that would fit my budget and criteria, but if I found somewhere there'd be 100 other people also looking for the same spot and it'd be gone in 5 minutes, he told Insider. "So it made me start thinking that there's got to be another way for me to do this." The 28-year-old came up with the idea of converting a dumpster, which are called skips in Britain, into a tiny home. They are a common sight outside renovation projects, for example, and can easily be moved to another location if desired. It also gave quite a good juxtaposition between what you don't typically think of as a house and almost the polar opposite of that, which is a bin or dumpster, and how actually that could be turned into something which is relatively cozy and homely, he said. His dwelling is in Bermondsey in southeast London, a short distance from Tower Bridge. Harrison Marshall designed and built the tiny home after spending the last 7 years working on design and construction projects for charities overseas. He set up an organization called Corken Studio with some friends he met studying architecture at university. They built schools, health centers, community halls and playgrounds, and so he applied that expertise to the construction and design process. The tiny dumpster home was inspired by another Corken Studio project, an art installation in a skip. It was in collaboration with a company called Skip Gallery, which commissioned artists to create artwork in the confines of a skip. Marshall built the tiny home in a few months, mostly in his spare time in the evenings. He started living in the tiny home last month. "I had help from a bunch of my friends that are involved in Corken on days they could spare, which was great," he said. He's had to use several quilts to keep warm at night as until this week it's not had electricity, meaning there was no heat. "I picked the worst time of year to build it as it was in December through a cold spell and the snow and the worst time of year to move into it," Marshall said. "Once I'm in bed it's not too bad. The structure is insulated well, but getting out in the morning and sticking my leg outside of the covers is something I dread each morning," he added. The tiny home has a mezzanine bed, sink, and a kitchen area where he makes sandwiches. There's also a small water tank, which he refills from a hose belonging to the neighbor's property, so he can wash dishes and brush his teeth. There's no flushing toilet, however. The materials including all fixtures and fittings cost about £4,000, $4,800. Marshall plans to live in the tiny dumpster home for a year but is open to staying for longer. "High rent prices is an issue which is affecting millions of people," Marshall said. "I've been lucky enough to find a site in London to do this, which was always going to be one of the biggest challenges," he said. "It's provided by an arts charity who has access to this location. That's been a real blessing to the whole project," Marshall added.